present to you the project we got that's called Amazing Grazing. So I'm a researcher in NIBIO, and I work with I'm an animal scientist. I've mainly been working with sheep welfare and rangeland grazing systems, and now we got this amazing grazing project. Probably we concluded before we start research with saying that grazing is amazing, but as we all know and feel, there is some need for more knowledge and wisdom into the debate of how to think of this. So the background is, or the thought is, that we need to know more how we can think around how meat and wool from our rangeland grazing sheep can be part of a sustainable food and fiber system. And I think if my grandparents asked me what I was doing, and thinking that we need to look at if it is sustainable and good to have ruminants grazing our rangelands, they would not really grasp that this would be a difficult topic. But I will take you through a few slides to put the setting of the background of the project, and then I will use a few slides to tell you what we're actually doing in the project. So the background is, as you probably have some feeling of, the difficult debate of what is sustainable and not. And what we know is that the debate is quite challenging when we know that our state TV channel has the program "Don't Do This to the Climate," and they asked the question, how can red meat lead to more avalanches? And the program is used for educating our young people in Norway. And the story they say is that cows and sheep will lead to more stone avalanches in the future due to ruminants emitting methane, or the climate becoming warmer, more rain, and thus more stone avalanches. And using quite strong pictures to tell this story. And I think that's, yeah, the debate needs, the story needs to be more nuanced, and this is not the full truth of it. And we do experience quite dramatic decline in number of sheep farmers, and number of, and worry that our numbers of sheep will go down. So we've now heard about biological diversity, and I think also to some extent we worry that our sheep farmers will be on the red list of rare species in the future if this continues. But anyway, the debate is you know, a bit difficult when it comes to what to eat first. Should we eat sheep or should we eat chicken? And the story, when you look at the CO2 equivalents per kilo produced, the chicken are better. So the chicken industry, or the they promote these products with them being a more sustainable choice. I think we're losing a bit of the background of and the correct setting of it. I think we need to talk more about what resources we put into our productions. So the sheep, as we know, they graze grasslands and they graze our rangelands. And the chicken eats grain. So really discussing what is more sustainable and what is good needs to take into account what resources we actually put into it. So the debate of what to eat is a bit challenging, and also the debate as to what to wear in the textile industry, and agriculture is also a textile, producing clothes and textiles. And we hear the stories, or the textile industry is a big challenge. We see mountains of waste dumped in the desert, and figures tell us that it's actually more climate difficult. It's worse for the climate with all these, our textile industry, compared to to flying airplanes. So we really need to look into that part as well. And when it comes to what to wear, the debate here also is difficult. When we try to make environmental labels to textiles, and in EU they are working with the product environmental footprint as a method for climate and environmental footprint of our various produce, also clothes and shoes. And in this context, as it looks now, wool and natural fibers are far worse than recycled plastic. So I think there are a lot of numbers and figures that are not correctly used, and this is challenging in the debate. So our knowledge needs to be put in together and used with the wisdom, and I guess that's a big task to take on, but hopefully, or the ambition at least of our Amazing Grazing project is to contribute with knowledge into this setting. So it's the project got funding from the agricultural research money in Norway. It's called Amazing Grazing, Sustainable Meat and Wool from Sheep Grazing in Norwegian Rangelands. And we're collaborating with Oslo Met and consumer researchers, SIFO, and Norsk, the Norwegian Center for Organic Research, NIBU, as well as researchers in Sweden and in California and in Australia. And what we're very happy about is that we are liaising with a lot of stakeholders in the value chain, in the wool and meat sector, and also those that discuss sort of how to behave and as a consumer, and also how to behave when we use our rangelands and our mountain areas in Norway. So we're very glad that we can discuss this topic as we go along in the project with a lot of different stakeholders. So what we had this nice drawing made for the project, trying to illustrate what we want to do. So looking at the resources we have in Norway and looking at how our sheep can fit into this, and also looking at the consumers. How do they perceive this setting of what they buy and what they of food and clothes, and also importantly the economy, and linking it to the sustainability goals. So one work package is to look at the production system of sheep farming. This is an NIBU colleagues that are doing most of the work, and we want to assess sustainability in sheep rangeland grazing systems. So how to do this, and the project got a thumbs up for looking at this through different methods and different approaches. So one approach is looking at life cycle analysis, LCA, of sheep rangeland grazing systems, and another approach is the protein calculations or ratio, what quality protein in and out, and also using smart analysis interview method, digging into economy aspects, and lastly we've added on recently the climate calculator for sheep, which is also now being developed in Norway. So for the LCA analysis, colleague Matthias Kessling is working on this. And as you know, you want to put into this as much as knowledge as we can, also when it comes to the CO2 equivalents. And as Hanne was mentioning, the issue of the rangelands, the issue of how to understand the carbon cycle of sheep grazing in our rangeland is a very important topic, and that we hope that we can add into this LCA analysis as well. But as you said, Hanne, we still lack a lot of knowledge there. I also pointed out this study that I wanted to mention it, but now you already heard that from Hanne, but this is the research paper that we know that address a bit how the carbon storage story is in our rangelands, but here we need more knowledge. The protein calculations, I think, is a very crucial part. It's Håvard Steinsam, my colleague in NIBIO, that's doing this. He's working on it right now, so hopefully during this winter we will have some more results from this. And what's important here is that our ruminants, sheep and cattle, and as has been said earlier today, they can actually digest fibers, and we can get milk and meat and wool. And this is fibers or feed and grass that we as humans cannot eat. So our sheep, they can eat low, feed with a low ratio of human edible protein, and we get a high ratio out. So that's why when you look at the protein calculations, our ruminants to some degree get a better ratio than pigs and poultry that need high quality protein. And then we got this smart analysis or interview tool. I'm not sure if you're familiar, how familiar you are with it, but it's this is done by Rose Beitschle. She works in Norsk, and the master student Narta, that is at NMBU. So they've interviewed 8 sheep farmers, and the question or the interview tool here is made by a lot of researchers trying to include all aspects of the sustainability goals to make assessments on the farm level. So the picture you see here is the black line is score for the 8 farms that were interviewed, but we will dig more into the details at a later point. But overall, the sheep farmers seem to get a quite high score. We also look into economy, which is important, and it's Ola Flaten, my colleague, that will look into the input factors and farm economy aspects where feed resources, subsidies, and make some scenarios in our rangeland grazing systems. And I think this is a very interesting aspect, as well as our subsidies and the economy setting puts a lot of points out how the farmers actually decide on how to run the farm. And we are working with Norsk Landbruksrådgivning to see if we can do the climate calculator, try this one on the farms that we're already collaborating with. And I think that will be these 5 different approaches will give us a lot of different input on what is important when it comes to sustainability, and probably not give one big correct answer, but hopefully give information that will be important when we discuss how a sheep grazing rangeland system should develop in Norway, and what's important when it comes to sustainability. And one other work package is the framing. We call it framing. How does policies, economy, and framework influence production and consumption of products from rangeland grazing? This will be in collaboration with NIBIO and Oslo Met, Gunnar Ryttersjø and Ola Flaten. And here it's also not only looking at into the farmer and the economy and the structures around the farmer, but also as a society as a whole. And there is a work package 4 looking at which deals with the consumer and sustainable consumption. looking at the value of produce from Norwegian rangelands and how it behaves in the whole value chain. And it's Oslo Met with Sifo and Ingunn Grimstad Klepp and Hanne Torjus, which are working on this. And then we have to put our work from work package 2, 3, and 4 together and make some scenarios and look and case studies, and hopefully have quite a lot of dissemination and communication activities as we go along. I think this winter we will get a lot of results and data from work package 2, so we will have hopefully more stuff to discuss also with all our stakeholders when we get a bit further into the project. So our thought is to have the sheep give the sheep better saying in the discussion on sustainability. Thank you.